the cliff that we're standing at, that I think we're looking at now, is this massive understood and also misunderstood valley of peptides. And it's something that I really didn't know too much about before I was connected to you. I'd heard about it from my friends at the Mind Pump podcast. They've done a lot of content with peptides. Let's go really simplistic for people in this very nuanced conversation of peptides.
We've been using peptides, I don't know, about 6 years now. And very simplistically, peptides are just chains of amino acids. So amino acids are the building block of, humans, right? And so they make neurotransmitters. They help us make bones and cartilage and soft tissue and help all of our tissues in really solid structures. That's amino acids. If we stack them together in different combinations, we get a peptide. We call it a peptide if it's 40 amino acids or less. And then we call it a protein if it's 41 amino acids or more. And so, whether it's a protein, a peptide, or a hormone, I just think of them all similar. They're messengers. They're messengers. And so even getting back to what you were saying about the psychoneuroimmunology is you can have thoughts and feelings that we then physically, relay in our body through things just like peptides. That's how it works. Yeah, it's very real.
I think of, and these messages are happening how many times per second? Uncountable times per second, right?
Sure.
And a lot of these peptides, and this is what I'd love clarity on, and also for the audience to understand too, that they mimic the functions of other naturally occurring peptides in the body, right? When you're taking exogenous versus endogenous. Can you unwrap that a little bit?
Yeah, the best example probably to talk about that is growth hormone. So growth hormone is an anabolic hormone released by the posterior pituitary, so part of our brain that kind of is in charge of releasing hormones. Growth hormone's anabolic in nature because it's helpful for healing, mending, rejuvenating tissue. It's released, for this example, growth hormone is secreted for most people around 10 p.m. And so we pulse it between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That's why, the common knowledge is be asleep during those hours, because then you get exposure to growth hormone. Well, growth hormone has a very short half-life, so it travels in the bloodstream down to the liver, and the liver makes this substance called insulin-like growth factor 1, or IGF-1. So what became popular and how we got into peptides first is from the competitive CrossFit community, who started using growth hormone releasing peptides. These were substances, the big one is something called semirelin, which where if you inject it into your skin or under your skin subcutaneously, it will then travel to your pituitary and bind to receptors and push out some growth hormone. So it mimics the effect of growth hormone. It's also a bit of a push, but because it's just less than 40 or less amino acids, very small molecule. So what the beauty of peptides, which I would love to stress, is so safe. I mean, it's so rare to see any sort of side effect, let alone negative side effect. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's super rare because these molecules are really small. And because molecules are really small, they can signal without any sort of harsh side effects. And so that's a really good example. So, growth hormone releasing peptides, there's a lot of them now. A popular one's called tesamorelin, which is a fat burning peptide that people inject and travels up to the brain, says put out growth hormone. That growth hormone travels in the bloodstream. You're making insulin-like growth factor 1, and you're helping to not only push out the growth hormone, but you time when you push it out. So those two variables are really effective for people looking to lean out, get stronger, recover, sleep better skin, all these kind of wonderful things that people aspire to get.
I mean, at this point, there's probably hundreds of peptides that are played with, but I'm sure you probably only use a good 50 to 30. How many peptides do you actually feel are efficacious right now for people in longevity performance medicine?
There's probably closer to 20 to 30 that are, and there's, to your point, there's probably many more than that, but that are used routinely, it'd probably be between 20 and 30. Yeah.
In a very low level, peptides are messengers, which I loved how you said that so simplistically. So why would the body need support in proper messaging in the first place?
Well, I mean, there's lots of reasons, right? One, most people, if we're going to be totally honest, think negative thoughts, right? So they cloud up, their ability to be clear and coherent. They're eating food that's not good for them, whether it's processed or flat out toxic. We're exposed to heavy metals and, non-native EMFs on a continual basis. One thing that I enjoy talking about and thinking about is energy, right? And so we think and it's interesting to think about energy, why is it that when we become adults, it's we have to ration our energy or even think about it? And I think, we know the physics, paradigm that energy is never created or destroyed, just transformed. I think we all have plenty of energy. In fact, most of us have too much energy. It's the wrong kind of energy. And we don't know how to utilize it, and we get stuck. So I think peptides are a way for the body just to clean some of that up and become efficient. We need help with that. We live under artificial light. Most people don't get out in the sun. Most people don't get out in nature. They're not breathing appropriately. I mean, there's all these things. They're not getting sleep, and it just, compounds, And when you're in 25, you can handle it well, right? I mean, you just can. You're young,
Sure.
Metabolically, from a cortisol perspective, hormonally, you can bounce back quickly. When you're 35, much less so. By the time you're 45, you're going to be feeling the effects of life. And It's not even like most of us will ever have a life or death situation. But boy, for most people, it feels that way.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, just an accumulation and compounding of all the negatives.
That's so beautifully said. Yeah, we're not in our ancestors' world anymore. They weren't being bathed in EMF and dealing with lack of nutrients from the soil and chemtrails and all the other crap that really, that's why you and what you do is so powerful. You're almost a shield in a way. You become a shield and you become a fortress for people to start taking care of their body in a way that quite possibly our ancestors never really had to worry about. In other words, we're not in our grandparents' time anymore. They had it so good. They also had challenges, but I think it's a really beautiful place that we are now, where we have technology that can actually help us. Look at you and I talking across the United States through a freaking camera and a computer. Like,
amazing.
My grandpa would have been like, "This is so awesome," and we take it for granted every single day. Okay. Let's go to a little bit more of a deep dive into this. It's the thing on everyone's mind right now, and it's Ozempic and tirzepatide. We've heard a lot about this in the media. I think Elon Musk was public about his use of Ozempic. Can you paint a picture of clarity between the difference of Ozempic and tirzepatide, and honestly, who they're even a fit for?
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing over the last 2 years what's happened. That class of medicine, and the generic name for Ozempic is semaglutide, and then tirzepatide is the generic name for Mounjaro. And we started with semaglutide Ozempic, and what they found is it is a peptide, just like you're saying. But the pharmaceutical company got their hands on it and said, wow, when we're giving this to diabetics, we're seeing a lot of weight loss. So, Ozempic was never approved for weight loss. It was approved for type 2 diabetics for more blood sugar management. And then, the FDA does not regulate what doctors can prescribe. Most medicines, actually, people don't know this, but most medicines are prescribed off-label, meaning they're never prescribed for what the FDA approves, but we're allowed to prescribe them. We will obviously make sure things are safe. And so we started with Ozempic, semaglutide, and it just took off, and the trajectory of that was crazy. Right behind that was Mounjaro or tirzepatide. The biggest difference, I keep it simple, is Mounjaro, tirzepatide works on 2 different receptors, while semaglutide, Ozempic works on 1. And what that translates to for tirzepatide and Mounjaro, you get faster weight loss with less side effects. And so to answer your question, who's this for? I mean, it's almost like everybody. And I say that seriously. I mean, we take care of a lot of famous people, supermodels, politicians, athletes. Everyone is clamoring for this. And people would be surprised. People are kind of like, oh, what's going on in Hollywood and actors and actresses. I mean, it is so common. And what I like about it is that it's predictable and reliable and safe, And so the way I look at it, who doesn't want to look and feel their best and perform their best, right? Like, I want that for everyone. So I know there's some people who are going to say, oh, it's not natural, I shouldn't do it. You should really put in the hard work and lose weight. I get it. But at the same time, my philosophy is I'd like to help people win the race first. And then when it clicks for them, they're going to be committed to figuring it out after that. And that's their buy-in. And so with Ozempic, Mounjaro, that's what's happened. I mean, people who are on it who want to lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, and we have people who are losing 50 pounds, My approach to it is I don't want it to be forever. I don't think really any pharmaceutical, very few are forever from go. Yeah. And so we just start out with, hey, let's do this episodically. If you need to go back to it, great. But let's use it for its purpose, lose the weight and come off. We are learning some interesting things. We have we are based here in Charleston, South Carolina. Then we also, I have a clinic open in London, England. And over there, we're noticing some interesting things with the medicines in terms of people, thinking about food differently. Like, they're not consumed with it. London's a very social, atmosphere, people, a lot of big dinners and events. And my clients tell me they're just not thinking about food the same way. And that's powerful, right? It doesn't consume the energy to be, when am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? So there's a lot of upside to this for sure.
Don't go anywhere. Click the link on this screen. If you love that clip that you just watched, you're going to absolutely love this full-length video. You just have to tap the little icon on the screen. While you're at it, subscribe.